When we asked Pooh what the opposite of an introduction was, he said, "The what of a what?" Which didn't help us as much as we had hoped. But luckily, Owl kept his head and told us that the opposite of an introduction was a contradiction. And as he is very good at long words, I'm sure that's what it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about owls today. Cultures throughout time have seen owls as being symbolic, be it either signs of wisdom or signs of impending death. Throughout time, owls have had a wide variety of symbolism for many different cultures. There are over 700 places in the United States named after owls in some way or another, such as Owl Creek or Owl Hollow, or things of that nature. There are at least 216 known species of owl, which basically is categorized into two different groups. There's barn owls and grass owls, and then there's basically every other type of owl. They call that typical owls. A group of owls is known as a parliament. I will touch today on some of the varieties of owls, but I'm basically going to just go over owls in general. Owls are most active from dusk through dawn. They spend much of the day roosting in a tree, hiding so they can't be seen. And throughout the day, they will clean themselves and stretch and yawn and basically just stay in the tree and camouflage. Owls use body language, and they're very expressive, telling how they feel, be it if they're scared or on the attack or anything of that nature. When an owl is relaxed, its feathers are fluffy and soft and more spread out and or tightened up against its body. When an owl feels threatened, it will ruffle its feathers out and lower its head, and sometimes will spread its wings in order to make itself appear larger than it actually is. Some owls do hoot, as most people think that they make noise like that. They hoot, but in fact, owls have a wide variety of vocalizations. When they feel threatened, they can click their beaks, make like a clicking sound. Some owls even hiss really loudly. Some do hoot, or some make a purring noise. Owls have very strong hearing ability in addition to their great sight. Their ears are actually asymmetrical. One actually sits higher than the other. And this allows them to detect how far away prey is from them. And they can also hear small prey rustling in leaves from a great distance away. They can pick up on higher frequencies of sound than humans. Also, with the way their ears are staggered, they can determine how close or far away something is from them by which ear the sound hits first. They have visible tufts of feathers above their head, but that's just basically for looks. The actual ears are on the side of their head, similar to ours, but the feathers on top are just for visible cues. They use that for the part of their displaying their emotions. The feathers on their face, around their face, are known as a facial disc, and it's shaped in a way to where the sound actually passes through it, and it helps. It acts kind of like a radar dish, and helps direct the sound into their ears quicker. Owls' eyes are very large and face forward, giving them a type of binocular vision. They can't actually rotate their eyes, move their eyes at all in their head. They're actually stable inside their head, connected to the back by small bones, and that's why they actually have to turn their whole head in order to see. They can actually turn their head range of 270 degrees motion, left or right. They can even turn their head almost completely upside down and almost all the way back around. The large size of their pupils allows their eyes to adjust to many different types of light, giving them better night vision. They can bring in more of the light at nighttime and see better at night. But they also have good vision in bright lights as well. Better so than most humans even. Like they can go from, say, pitch black dark to blinding light and still see just fine. They have very quickly adjusting eyes. They actually have 3 eyelids. The upper eyelid closes when the owl is blinking. The lower eyelid closes when the owl is sleeping. And the third eyelid is kind of like a coating over the eye to protect it from harm. Owls actually have 4 toes, 3 in the front and 1 in the back. And they can rotate them around to give them better grip however they need. They actually have a rough texture on the bottom of their feet that allows them better grip. It's almost like the grip of a basketball in a way, the way it looks. They have short downward curved beaks that they're curved downward so that sound can actually pass quicker through it. It's more aerodynamic in a sense for sound to go through to hit the facial disc quicker, so the beak doesn't get in the way. And also they're shaped that way to rip prey apart easier. And their beak kind of acts like a scissor motion. The top is actually to the side a little bit of the bottom of the beak, and it works kind of like scissors and just cuts the prey up. They do eat their prey whole when they can, but if they have larger prey, they will rip it to smaller chunks. And they actually do not have that good of a sense of smell, though. Their nostrils are at the base of their beak, but their sense of smell isn't that strong. They rely more on their sense of hearing and sight. And actually, when they go in for the hunt, or when they're going in for the kill, they dive at the animal with their legs out in front of them, and right when they go to grab the animal, they tend to close their eyes, usually. And they hit the animal with such a force, just the force of them gripping the animal from flight breaks their neck, usually. So, the owl's feathers actually have many different functions. They have a comb-like edge around the edge of their main flight feathers that allows them to cut through the air when they're flying. It cuts back on the turbulence and also makes them fly almost silently, so they don't get detected by animals when they're flying at them. So essentially they sneak up on their prey without the other animal even hardly knowing they're there. They actually have a small gland at the base of their tail that secretes an oily substance that they use to coat their wings with and feathers with to protect them when they're cleaning themselves. The color and the pattern of owls' feathers give them a great camouflage. They tend to blend in with their surroundings really well. And when they're covered up, they cover themselves up with their feathers and close their eyes typically up against a tree whenever they feel like they need to hide. And they tend to blend in almost perfectly. The owls eat a wide variety of food. They're opportunistic. They will typically eat whatever they can get a hold of in whatever area they may be in. But smaller types of owls tend to eat insects and smaller rodents, mice and moles and things like that. Other owls will eat lizards or smaller birds or smaller mammals. Some owls will even eat, the larger owls will even eat foxes and ducks and all types of different animals. They pretty much eat whatever they can get a hold of that they're able to kill and bring down. Um, most other birds are scared of owls and will go so far as to attack owls in large groups in order to try to drive them away. Owls actually don't tend to let this phase them. They stay relaxed and let the birds do whatever they're going to do. And if they get really irritated, they'll fight back. But typically, they're one of the main birds of prey in the air. Most other things aren't going to mess with them. Most owls do hunt from perches. Some have gotten really good at fishing. There are a few types of owls that specialize in fishing, but for the most part they'll hunt from perches. There are some owls that will glide around and drop in on their prey. They'll glide around until they see something and then drop in and get prey then, such as mice and things of that nature. When they can, owls will store food away for a backup supply. Even going so far as if they're living in a frozen area, sometimes their backup food will freeze, so they'll then sit on it and thaw it out whenever they want to eat it. They don't really build nests. They tend to just take nests from other birds, or if they find a hole in a tree or a crevice in some rocks, they'll sometimes use that. So they don't actually build their own nest typically. And when an owl eats its food, like I said, it does tend to eat it whole. Whatever it can't digest, it will vomit back up in a pellet. And the pellet has all the bones and the fur or the feathers or whatever else the owl couldn't digest in it. And you can actually take the owl pellet apart and find almost the whole skeleton of whatever animal it is that they had eaten. Owls have various mating rituals depending on their species. They are monogamous, and one type of owl, the tawny owl, actually does mate for life. But other owls will stay with together as a mating pair throughout the whole mating season, sometimes for a year or more. But in general, owls are monogamous, and in order to attract the females, they'll bring them food or make different calls and things like that. And the baby owls are called owlets, and they're born with a down, like a fuzzy down, instead of the actual feathers that they get later on, in order to stay warm. The male typically goes and hunts the food and brings it back to the nest for the babies, and they feed the strongest babies first. The weakest babies, they won't feed unless they have enough food. So if the weak one doesn't get enough food, it dies, and then the strongest ones are left. Depending on the type of owl, they tend to have between 1 and 13 eggs. Typically between 2 and 4 is average number, but they can have up to 13 depending on the type of owl. Owls are very territorial. They will defend their nest no matter what is coming up against them, even so far as attacking humans. Not very common, but they will attack humans. There's been stories of several times of humans losing eyes to attacking owls, defending their nests. I even read about one photographer who had lost an eye just while trying to take pictures of owls before. And while looking up information about owls, I did come across an interesting quote in regards to them. The owl, he was saying, is one of the most curious creatures, a bird that stays awake when the rest of the world sleeps. They can see in the dark. I find that so interesting, to be mired in reality while the rest of the world is dreaming. What does he see, and what does he know that the rest of the world is missing? And I kind of feel that this describes a lot of the mystery and the feelings attached to owls through various civilizations. People really wonder, like, what does this owl know that we don't know? Because he's active when we're all asleep, so he must see parts of the world that we don't even know about. So he must have some great knowledge of the hidden world that we don't know about. So I thought that quote was pretty appropriate for that. Though we may never be able to answer those questions, owl remains a symbol of wisdom to some and a symbol of impending doom to others. I hope that I've been able to shed some light on the dark world of owls.